Big game for the Lions against the Chargers this week. A lot to get through, a lot of offensive success for Detroit. We're going to go through chronological, just starting, I believe this was the first play of the game, in fact. And they call this a Mexico concept. Mexico, when you get these deep crossing routes over the middle of the field right here. And it's going to wind up being what they call a flood in the end. One level, two levels, three level stretch, flood, if you will. And I wanted to start with this play to show that as good as Detroit was offensively in this game, it was not a perfect performance, a tremendous performance, not perfect one. This play right here, I think Jared Goff will tell you, and look, he had pressure from Bosa right here. So maybe this is exactly where he wants to go. The read is on this level 2 right here on the flood, though. You'd like to look to that and then check down to that, if you will. Read high to low typically is how they teach it. Maybe Detroit teaches it differently, but you start off right here in a 9-yard gain. Could have maybe been a bigger gain. Again, I don't think Ben Johnson's going to sit here and tell Jared Goff, hey, you did this wrong necessarily, but just something, if we're thinking football learning, all of that's possible. They're going to get to this Mexico concept again. Penei Sewell's going to hold up in protection better than that on almost every snap. Just something to keep in mind. Look for Goff. You want to make sure you're looking at that deeper level whenever possible, taking the yards on the field. But hey, 9-yard gain to start off. There are worse ways to start the game. Third play of the game, and one thing Detroit did a lot, they've done it all season, and this one, they call it short motion. They'll bring the tight end out wide into the formation. They do that to get a man zone tell. There's a cornerback across from the tight end. That's likely zone coverage. If it were a safety, they'd assume it's man-to-man. LaPorta's actually going to cross the formation on this one. They're going to set up something. We'll let the play run right here. They're setting up something deep for Amon-Ra St. Brown right there, and it's called a throttle concept. And I don't know why they call it that, but what a throttle concept is, and it's a great tactic against these Vic Fangio-style defenses. Basically, in the simplest form, throttle is you find a way to occupy these defenders, and then you run someone behind them. The Vic Fangio-style scheme, it's predicated on quarters structure. Quarters, they don't actually play a ton of quarters coverage. They play regular amounts, but they start out in these 4 deep looks, these quarters looks. And this one, the Chargers actually did stay in quarters. So this strike route right here is going to occupy the corner. That is Dean Leonard, a backup corner. That's a key factor on the play. We'll get to that in a second. Strike route's going to occupy the corner. Then it's going to occupy the safety. Let's watch that play out. There's the strike route collecting both defenders. Now, this is where it gets tough for Leonard. The backup corner, third play of the game. He's not been on the field a lot this season. He's not expecting someone to go running behind him, but that's what he has to be ready for. He's got to fall off of this once this route is passed off to Derwin James. A lot to ask. Again, think about it. You're Dean Leonard, third play of the game. You're looking at this. The guy that's coming after you is all the way over there. But he's got to drop and do that because this is Gilman, the safety, and you can't expect Gilman to run with Amon-Ra St. Brown across the field, especially when St. Brown's got leverage inside of Gilman. They play quarters because there are help defenders in different spots. In this case, the help defender, James, was occupied by that route. So Gilman's help defender needed to be over here. He wasn't. Again, backup corner, great play call by Ben Johnson early in the game going after a backup corner for the Chargers. Few snaps after that, this was the 6th play of the game. We're still on the opening drive. Missed crossing route opportunity. Just want to point one thing out, and there won't be a lot of negative Jared Goff plays in this cut-up, but this one is a negative Jared Goff play. When you're throwing a crossing route, we're going to watch from the end zone angle right here. The rule of thumb for a quarterback is you do not throw the ball until the receiver shows you his eyes. He's got to turn and look at you, and that's your indication, okay, I can throw the ball now. Or you look here, Khalif Raymond, he never showed Jared Goff his eyes. Ball's out, Raymond and him were on different pages. Goff's lucky that they're zone defense. There wasn't a zone defender in that spot. Goff had a pick 6 in a game on Sunday night against Seattle years ago. This was pre-SoFi days, in his Rams days, throwing to Robert Woods on one of these. It was a quarters concept on that side of the field. It went the other way. Jared Goff, he knows better than this. He's made a lot of great throws. Good crossing route thrower. You got to wait and let that receiver show you the eyes first. On to the second series, and here's Detroit. We talked about those short motions, bringing the tight ends from out wide into the formation. You see them do that here. This is 12 personnel. Chargers are in base. 12 means 1 back, 2 tight ends. Base for the Chargers. And this is the Gibbs 35-yard near touchdown. He'd had an 11-yard run right before this, too. We wanted to do this play just because it's really representative. First of all, that short motion that Detroit does, it's nice they do that. But the zone blocking from these guys was phenomenal in this game, and Gibbs did a great job reading it. The guy that always stands out, I used to have an AP All-Pro vote before I started cashing checks from teams. And Ragnow is a guy that makes me wish I were still voting, because I'd love to put him on the ballot. I think that's a no-brainer this year. He's been the best center in the NFL this season. And look at him on this zone block at the point of attack. What he is so good at is when he engages, he can continue his movement with the same speed and dexterity as guys that are not engaged. He's got an unusual combination of strength, balance, technique, mechanics. And right there, I mean, that point of attack was moved back 4 or 5 yards. Gibbs just has to run behind it, and then Gibbs does have to create on his own. Great play by Gibbs. Great play, though, by Frank Ragnow, the guy who I believe this season is the best center in the NFL. All right, we're jumping to the fourth quarter here. A lot happened in that quarter. We want to get to it, so we're going to skip ahead. And this was a good check by Jared Goff earlier in the fourth quarter. They canned to this play. What he saw, it's going to be Gibbs on a 14-yard kind of a circular angle route in the middle of the field against Eric Kendricks here. What Goff saw to get to this matchup right here, and I don't know why the Chargers, they got a little bit hasty, but you got Bosa's walked out, kind of an overhang defender, a safety behind him. That's an indication. When you got a defender right behind another defender, that's an indication that this guy's probably coming, because he's going to drop down and fill where that guy was in coverage. So Goff spots that. Bosa kind of tips it. Here he comes. Here comes Gilman, the safety. They're both kind of showing you what they're doing. And Goff, if we watch him in the end zone right there, hands to the ears, that's Detroit's sign for a can. He's going to can to this play. They're canning to what you call a 4-vert concept, running all 4 guys vertical. Now, the reason they're doing that, a lot of times you do that, you want to get a vertical route, of course. But there are some teams in some instances when they have a dynamic receiving back, a guy like Gibbs, they will call this because these vertical routes, look at the amount of space it creates in the middle of the field. Detroit used to do this with Brian Westbrook way back in the day. The Bengals did it with Giovanni Bernard, getting to a 4 vertical concept to get your guy isolated in space. And it's a great check by Goff, because he knows, okay, if Bosa's coming, they've got 5 down right here. They're probably not dropping an extra guy to the boundary because we got 2 tight ends over here. So, this is not like it's Amon-Ra St. Brown or even Josh Reynolds or wide receiver. So chances are all 5 of these guys are coming, which means that's more space for one of the underneath defenders. 5 guys rushing means 1 less underneath defender. That's a bigger island that Kendricks has to operate on. Tough assignment for anyone. Kendricks, veteran player, a little later in his career. He's not going to handle that particularly well. There was a time where he would have, though, by the way. He's had a great career, but a really good job by Goff. You see him again, he's canning into the play, and then we'll just watch from the end zone because you appreciate just how much space, what an island Kendricks was put on. The only downside of this play, pressure did factor a little. Goff did not make his best throw. Actually, you know what? I take that back. Ball's tipped right here. Great job by Gibbs. I first saw that, I thought Goff was a little behind Gibbs, but that's a great job by Gibbs making the catch. Unfortunate for Detroit, the ball was tipped, because that would have been a long catch and run. But hey, most teams, most situations, that's an incompletion. Gibbs, 14-yard catch on the 4 verts check down concept. This was one of my favorite plays in the game. This was 3rd down and 2. Great 3 receiver route combination to the boundary. When we say to the boundary, ball spotted on the left hash, so the shorter side of the field, the boundary side, will be to the left. There's a wider side of the field over here. Detroit's in a 2-by-2 formation, so that's balanced, but the running back's offset over there. And with these guys and these tight of splits, think of it like this. This is almost like a really loose bunch. We've seen teams do this. The Colts have been good at this. The Eagles, Frank Reich, those guys, Shane Steichen, that coaching staff. Well, Ben Johnson's doing it here. 3 receiver route combinations to the boundary can be a real bear cat on zone coverages. The Chargers were playing a lot of cover 3 on these 3rd downs, even 3rd and 2. You typically get man-to-man on 3rd down and short, or you used to for a lot of years. Defenses are starting to do more zone on 3rd down. So there's your 3 deep and then 4 under. That's cover 3 for you. And we just mapped this out. All right, cornerback up top, Leonard's got the vertical widest receiver. So if this guy stays outside and goes vertical, Leonard's got to go with him. I believe he's going to actually settle it down. But that's one thing the Chargers were doing out of their cover 3 on these third downs. They were playing it tight. So they were treating almost everything like it was vertical. So there goes, I believe that's Raymond on the out-breaking route, and he's going to occupy Leonard right there. Okay, one defender out of the way. Now we've got Gibbs, I believe that is, coming out of the backfield. He's going to occupy the other underneath defender. 2 defenders are out of the way right here, out of the equation. All that leaves now is LaPorta, and look at if he's running here, he's got leverage on both defenders. It's a great design to run a corner route right here because either Murray's got to go with him or the safety's got to get over. Either way, though, LaPorta's headed that way. He's got a head start. He knows where he's going. The defenders don't. Goff just has to throw it to a spot. He does right before he gets on the break. Good football. Good job by the defense to even get over there. Excellent play call, though, on 3rd down and 2, a 3-receiver route combination to the boundary. So here's the late 4th quarter drive, a couple of key plays. So we see these short motion. Remember we talked about Detroit's bringing their tight ends out. And they get the man zone tell when they do that. Well, this time that's safety Derwin James across from Sam LaPorta. That's not a corner. That's a safety. Tells you that's man-to-man. Safeties guard tight ends and man-to-man. Chargers, by the way, they rarely tip their man coverage pre-snap. They'll often just align in zone even if they're playing man. This time they did show it. They're playing man-to-man. This is short, timely motion, meaning he was still in motion when the ball was snapped. That's the timely part. And they're setting up a screen, a backfield screen. I should let the play run for you. They're setting up a backfield screen to Gibbs, knowing they got man-to-man. Now, what you want for a backfield screen is man coverage. And the idea was let's clear out this bottom part of the field right here. We're going to clear it out. We're going to run Reynolds deep. We're going to run LaPorta across. You guys stay over there. And if we get it cleared out properly, all you got to do in man-to-man, the reason you like backfield screens against man coverage is you just have to block the running backs man. And a lot of times, because you clear it out like we just saw, there's a running backs man, Kenneth Murray, a lot of times that's going to create enough space for a big play. Game of inches right here. Frank Ragnow, who we said I believe is the best center in the league this year. I think Kelsey's the best that has done it. Ragnow's having the best season, though. Right here, he's in a tough spot. He's got to matriculate right here. He's got these 2 guys. He needs to lure Kendricks in and then go block Murray. So he's a little late getting to Murray, as we're going to see. But remember, it's easy to say, oh, he's late. He should have get there sooner. Well, he's got to, if he gets there too soon, though, Kendricks isn't going to be lured in. And then you got pursuit coming that way. So it's a tough act to balance right there. And Gibbs, you see, he's going to set up and do the boundary screen. Really, it's a good play by Kenneth Murray defensively. He avoids the block. And if he had not made this stop right here, Gibbs probably takes that to the deep red zone, if not to the house. So wanted to show this because Detroit, again, that's why I love football. This was a really good play call. They got what they wanted. They executed it well. Defense was just a step better than them on this one, but we're going to see that 4th down play in a second. Lions will get it back. Okay, here's the 4th and 2 conversion. A gutsy play call from Detroit in a shootout. Thought they'd find a way to run the clock out while getting a little bit closer on the field goal. And Jared Goff and the offensive line made him right. Really good job right here. Watch it. Khalil Mack took away Gibbs in the flat route by bamming him. If you know, different words for it, but he's going to hit the hell out of Gibbs right here. Good job right there. And then they matched this really well on the back end up here. The Chargers, they were in another cover 3 concept. The reason I wanted to show this play, not the play that won the game, but look how late in the down he went, and the protection was unbelievable. And it helps that they were going after the back here, so they're only rushing 3 instead of the full 4. But the protection's unbelievable. Goff, who's a guy not known for extending plays, you can extend them from within the pocket. That's ideal. That's what he did on this one. And one thing I wanted to point out is I learned from a coach years ago watching a Tom Brady interception. He said if the quarterback ever starts out looking one way, then looks the other way, and then goes back to the way he originally looked, something's gone wrong for the quarterback. You're not taught to do that. Well, here's Goff looking at the boundary, and then he's going to peek right over there. Nope, go back to the boundary. The discipline to stay on the read and trust the design of the play. I wouldn't count this as looking the other way. He didn't look to throw it. He started to peek and then got right back there. And Sam LaPorta, good job separating from Kenneth Murray, the guy we saw who just made the play against Gibbs. That was man coverage. You kind of pin your ears back, go after your man. Murray right here has to handle LaPorta and read Goff. Totally different defensive assignment. He was game for it, but just a hair short. Again, really good job by the Lions offensive line and quarterback extending the play within the pocket.